My mom wants me to marry my creepy stepbrother and have his child. I never thought I'd find myself in this position, staring at my mother across the kitchen table, her words ringing in my ears, echoing like a bell that refused to stop. You should marry him, Jenna. He's your best option, the most secure choice for your future, she said, her voice so calm, so matter-of-fact, that it almost seemed like a joke. But it wasn't. I could see it in her eyes, in the set of her jaw. She was serious. Marry him, my stepbrother. The very idea made my skin crawl. I remember the first time I met Nick, years ago when our parents decided to get married. I was 14, awkward and shy, and he was 17, already tall and imposing, with this dark, brooding presence that filled the room. He barely spoke to me that first day, just nodded in my direction with a look that sent a shiver down my spine. Over the years, that shiver never really went away. Nick was intense. He wasn't outwardly cruel or mean, but there was something about him that always made me uneasy. Maybe it was the way he watched me sometimes, his eyes lingering just a little too long. Or the way he seemed to enjoy making others uncomfortable, always pushing boundaries, testing limits. I learned early on to keep my distance, to stay out of his way. But now, here was my mother, suggesting I marry him, live with him, have children with him. It was unthinkable. Mom, you can't be serious, I said, my voice barely a whisper, my heart pounding in my chest. Nick, he's not someone I could ever marry. He's my stepbrother, for God's sake. She sighed, a deep, heavy sigh that made it clear she had anticipated this reaction. He's not your real brother, Jenna, she said, her tone patronizing. There's nothing wrong with it. People do it all the time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom, he's scary. You know how he is. He's always been off. I don't want to marry him. I don't even want to be in the same room as him half the time. She looked at me with a mix of frustration and pity, like I was a child who didn't understand the way the world worked. Jenna, I know Nick can be a bit intense. But he's family now. He cares about you. And he's stable, he has a good job, he can provide for you. In this world, that's what matters. Stability, security, not silly feelings. I felt a wave of anger rise up inside me. This isn't about stability, Mom. This is about you wanting to control me, to make decisions for me like I'm still a little kid. I'm not marrying Nick. End of discussion. But it wasn't the end of the discussion. Not by a long shot. Over the next few weeks, my mother kept bringing it up, finding ways to weave it into conversations, always pushing, always pressing. She'd make comments about my future, about how hard it is to find a good man these days, about how lucky I was to have Nick in my life. She even started inviting him over more often, arranging family dinners that were clearly just an excuse to get us in the same room. It was suffocating. Nick, for his part, seemed amused by the whole thing. He'd smile at me across the dinner table, this strange, knowing smile that made my stomach turn. He'd make little comments, teasing, flirting, testing the waters. I hated it, hated the way he looked at me, the way he talked to me, like he knew something I didn't. Like he was in on some secret that I wasn't privy to. One night, after yet another awkward family dinner, he cornered me in the hallway as I was heading to my room. You know, he said, leaning against the wall, his eyes fixed on mine, your mom's right. We'd make a good match. You should think about it. I felt a cold chill run through me. Nick, this isn't funny, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't want to marry you. I don't even want to think about it. He just shrugged, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. Maybe not now, he said softly, but you might change your mind. I'm patient. I can wait. I pushed past him, my heart racing, and locked myself in my room, my mind spinning. What was happening? How had my life turned into this bizarre nightmare? I felt trapped, like a rat in a cage, with no way out. I started avoiding my mother, avoiding Nick, avoiding the house altogether whenever I could. I'd spend hours at the library, at friends' houses, anywhere but home. But no matter how far I ran, I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being watched, being manipulated, being controlled. One day, I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted my mother, demanded to know why she was pushing so hard for this, why she wanted me to marry Nick so badly. "It's for your own good, Jenna," she said, her voice cold, her eyes hard. "You need to grow up. Stop being so selfish. Think about your future. Think about what's best for you." I couldn't believe it. "What's best for me?" I shouted, my anger boiling over. "You think marrying Nick is what's best for me? Living with him, having kids with him? Are you insane?" She slapped me then, a hard, stinging slap that left my cheek burning. "Don't you dare speak to me like that," she hissed, her face twisted with anger. "I'm your mother. I know what's best for you. You will do as I say, or you'll regret it." I stumbled back, tears stinging my eyes, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt like I was drowning, like I was being pulled under by a force I couldn't fight. I had to get out. I had to leave. That night, I packed a bag and left. I didn't know where I was going, didn't have a plan. I just knew I had to get away, far away, from my mother, from Nick, from everything. I got in my car and drove, not caring where I ended up, just needing to put as much distance between me and that house as possible. I ended up in a small town a few hours away, found a cheap motel, and checked in. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of everything. I felt numb, lost, like I was in a dream I couldn't wake up from. I didn't know what to do, where to go, who to turn to. I called my best friend, Emily, told her everything. She was horrified, shocked, but she didn't hesitate. "Stay there," she said. "I'm coming to get you. We'll figure this out together." Emily showed up a few hours later, and seeing her face, her familiar, friendly face, I finally broke down. I cried, sobbed, let out all the fear, the anger, the confusion. She held me, comforted me, told me I was safe now, that we'd figure this out together. Over the next few days, we came up with a plan. I would stay with Emily for a while, get a job, save up some money, figure out my next steps. I was terrified, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope, a sense of control over my own life. But my mother didn't give up easily. She called, left messages, demanding I come home, threatening to cut me off, to disown me. She even showed up at Emily's house one day, pounding on the door, shouting, demanding to see me. I hid in the bedroom, my heart pounding, my hands shaking, as Emily stood up to her, told her to leave, to stay away. Eventually, she gave up, or at least, she stopped trying so hard. The calls stopped, the messages stopped, and slowly, I started to breathe again. I found a job at a local cafe, started making friends, started to feel like myself again. But the fear never really went away. I still looked over my shoulder, still jumped at every unexpected sound, still felt that lingering sense of dread, that fear that one day, she'd find me, that Nick would find me, that they'd drag me back into that nightmare. I know I have a long way to go, a lot of healing to do. But I'm taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, learning to trust myself, to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, to fight for my own life, my own happiness. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. I will never let anyone control me, manipulate me, force me into a life I don't want. I will never let anyone take away my freedom, my choices, my voice. I am stronger than they think. I am stronger than I ever knew. And I will fight, every day, to live my life on my own terms. And as I look out at the world, at the endless possibilities, I feel a sense of hope, a sense of determination, a sense that, no matter what, I will find my way. I will be okay. I will be free.